Hello friends, myself Dr. Alka Mukherjee. I am a medico-legal expert from Nagpur. In the era of increasing medical awareness, open internet fora, and higher than ever expectations of patients from medical fraternity, it is imperative on the part of medical practitioners like us to have clear vision of existing laws of land and uniformity in our every act and action. And the first and foremost step towards this is taking consent. So the next topic is consent. Consent, how to take it and what are the types of the consent. The first important question is what is consent? Consent as defined in the section 13 of Indian Contract Act as two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense, that is parties ad adam. It's a voluntary agreement. It's a compliance or permission. But friends, be practical. Ignorance of law is not a defense in legal cases. Coming to medical consent. Medical consent is not an event of merely obtaining signatures on paper before patients submit to particular treatment. It is the proactive process of making sufficient disclosure. It is the process of dual communication. It is empowering the patients with the pros and cons of the treatment. The voluntary and continuing permission of the patient to receive a particular treatment based on adequate knowledge of the purpose, nature, likely effects and risk of that treatment, including likelihood of success and any other alternative of it. What are the types of consent? There are implied consent, express consent and informed consent. Implied consent is a consent assumed by the client's action. That means the patient walking in our OPD, she or they are coming. It is the lowest level of consent and is the most challenged interpretation of consent. For example, once the patient enters into a dentist clinic and sits on a dental chair and opens his mouth, it implies that he agrees to a simple general examination. Then he cannot complain that the dentist has depressed his tongue with spatula. The second important consent is express consent. It can be oral or written. Oral consent is equally valid, but written consent is superior to it for its evidence value. Oral consent should be taken in presence of uninterested third party, mainly in cases where intimate examination of female is required. Tests necessitating removal of body fluids, radiological examination can be done after securing oral consent. Where the second consent is a written consent. It is advisable and prudent to take consent in the presence of disinterested third party who will only sign or attest the signature of the patient. Consent should be in patient's own language. It is mandatory for every invasive, diagnostic, therapeutic procedures or any medico-legal examination. The third and most important consent is an informed consent, in which the patient should be informed about the diagnosis, the nature of the procedure, treatment, risk involved, prospect of success, prognosis if not treated, and alternative methods of treatment. Informed consent was practically non-existent till the time Consumer Protection Act, that is COPRA, came into existence in 1986. So there are four vital components for informed consent: mental capacity of the patient to enter into the contract, complete information, voluntary acceptance and decision making. It should be freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic and specific. Just like informed consent, there is an informed refusal. In case of informed refusal of treatment, signature of witnesses should be taken. Then refusal of consent or treatment. The patient has a complete right to control his or her own body. A competent adult is entitled to reject a specific treatment or all treatment or to select an alternative form of treatment even if the decision may entail risk as serious as even death. The person who takes the defense that consent was not given must prove the absence of consent. In situation where there is refusal to treatment, the consequences should be explained to the patient in presence of witnesses and a refusal document should be signed by them. Coming to refusal of consent or treatment, if the patients or relatives refuse to sign also, the sign of a neutral witness should be taken. You can refer the patient elsewhere if he or she refuses or withdraws his consent. If the refusal involves the welfare of a minor or an unborn baby, the court can override the refusal of parents. Coming to certain general precautions, you should ask patient and witness to sign in English. If the consent is in English, it is advisable not to delegate the job of obtaining consent to junior staff or other members. When 2 or more procedures are planned, it is necessary to have consent for both the procedures separately. If the change is made in the planned procedure, it must be explained to the patient and a new form should be completed, signed and witnessed. There are certain general precautions. Do not examine a female patient without a female attendant or nurse. It is advisable to ask the person give consent to write in his own handwriting. Such informed consent must be obtained in the presence of witness who should affix his or her signature. It should be at a free will and without misinterpretation. Coming to MTP and sterilization. For MTP, consent of husband is not required as such because MTP is a privilege of patients in regards to secrecy. For sterilization operation, consent of spouse is absolute must. Consent for examining or observing patient for educational purpose is must. Counseling before female sterilization is necessary. One should explain the couple about availability of sterilization, whether temporary or permanent. Informed voluntary consent should be taken in understandable local language. One should explain all the complications of sterilization including failure. Clients must be encouraged to ask questions to clarify doubts. Consent of spouse is must for sterilization. Coming to invalid consent. If the patient is under sedation, failure to give proper information and sufficient disclosure regarding the procedure is again comes under invalid consent. If the procedure performed by a doctor is substantially different from the one of which consent was given or the procedure performed exceeds the scope of consent, then again it is an invalid consent. If a different physician than the one to whom consent was given carries out the procedure, the consent is invalid. Consent is again invalid if the act itself is unlawful. If consent is given by minor or mentally ill person, it is not informed consent. Consent is must in all cases of medical examination and treatment, in all medico-legal cases and criminal cases like rape, etc. Examination without consent. As per section 53(1), it allows examination without consent at the request of police, but the police rank should not be below the rank of sub-inspector. Then consent in case of minor or mentally challenged person. Patient should have capacity and competence to consent. That means patient should be an adult and of sound mind. If these conditions are not fulfilled, the guardian's consent is valid. The next consent is loco parentis. That means the consent of a teacher or headmaster can be taken if parents are not available, especially in the girls or boys who lives in hostel. As per section 87 IPC, a person under the age of 18 years cannot give valid consent for the fact that it may harm him grievously, like the sports wrestling. A child under 12 cannot give consent for any operation. Sexual intercourse by a man with a girl below 15 years, even if she is his wife, contributes to the offence of rape. Minimum age of blood donation is 18 years. Coming to blanket consent, which doesn't have any legal value. It's vague consent without any proper information, risk and nature of treatment told to the patient. It is incomplete. Usually doctors have this blanket consent form with them, which is a routine stereotype printed consent forms. For all surgical procedures, there is the same consent form. But I authorize Dr. So and so to carry out any test, procedure or surgery in the course of any treatment is not valid in the court of law. The consent obtained stating that the patient is willing to undergo any type of treatment, surgeries or anesthesia without specifying is a blanket consent. Broad-based general consent to do whatever is necessary. This protects surgeon because during operation many unforeseen developments may occur, but doctor should not do this until the second pathology is life-threatening. Coming to proxy consent. When the person himself is incapable of giving express consent, consent of near relatives and lawful guardians can be taken. Proxy consent is valid when adult responsible person given consent by patient who is unstable to give consent For example, legal guardian on behalf of a minor or close relative of unconscious patient. Proxy consent is invalid if the patient is an adult of sound mind and is in the position to give consent. Proxy consent is when the patient is not competent to give medical decisions himself, like pediatric patients, severely ill patient, or road accident patients. Informed consent obtained after explaining all possible risks, side effects is superior to all other forms of consent and legally defensive. Coming to consent forms, it is not possible to have a common consent form for all the procedures. It is preferable to have specific consent forms for different types of surgeries. No consent form should be ideal in all respects, perfect and foolproof. They must fulfill the minimum legal requirements. Lastly, it is very important to keep the consent forms along with the patient's case records in safe custody. In emergency situation, one can go ahead without consent. Medical and not the legal considerations are of greater importance in life-threatening situations. The courts are most likely to censure a practitioner who has provided essential life-saving treatment in emergency. Emergency treatment should be restricted only to the procedures absolutely necessary. Anything else that could be performed later on electively should be deferred. It would be prudent to have a written opinion from an expert colleague stating necessity of the emergency surgery without consent. Coming to ghost surgeon, there are many times services of expert surgeon in a particular disciplinary are required. For example, laparoscopic surgeons routinely sought out in our fraternity. It is advisable to incorporate the name of visiting operating surgeon in the consent form to reduce our liability in case of future litigation, and to the extent the best thing would be to inform the patient about it, that I am calling so and so doctor for his expertise in this particular surgery. Certain tips: consent for blood transfusion should be taken separately. Now, when to take consent for blood transfusion separately, before OT or during OT? Of course, it should be before operation theatre, because before OT, because you never know when the blood will be required. In fresh consent should be taken for repeating procedure. Surgical consent is not sufficient to cover anesthesia risk. The consent for anesthesia should be separate. Unilaterally executed consents are void. Consent papers should be signed by doctor too. The only exception to this rule is when an additional procedure, though unauthorized, is mandatory in order to preserve the health of patient, then it would be unreasonable to delay such procedures. Such patients until the patient regains consciousness and takes decision. Consent should be procedure specific. There should be different consent forms for different surgical procedures, which should be included explanation of possible risk and complications involved in that particular surgery. There are few landmark judgments in context of consent. The first case, the patient was posted for hysterectomy, blood transfusion was asked. For excessive bleeding, consent was not taken. Patient developed HIV, AIDS. Later, compensation of rupees 4 lakhs with 6% interest was awarded. In the second case, the patient of primary infertility posted for diagnostic laparoscopy, ovarian drilling and salpingectomy was done without consent. Rupees 25,000 plus 2,000 were awarded. In the third case, during cesarean section tubectomy was performed without prior consent. Defense was during operation. Surgeon found that future pregnancy could be dangerous, but still they hold the doctor liable to pay compensation. In the fourth case, cataract surgery was done on 76-year-old patient, but consent of grandson was taken. Case of loss of vision was very well fought and there was no negligence found, but rupees 25,000 plus 10,000 was awarded because patient's consent was not taken. There are penal provisions regarding informed consent. The practitioners who violate the essential criteria of informed consent are liable to be removed from the roles of the medical counsel. Even IPC makes the offence punishable with a fine and or imprisonment depending on the circumstances of the case. So to conclude with, consent is not mere a formality. One should not take it very lightly. Vague or non-specific consent is invalid. Proper informed consent is must in all procedures that involve risk. Improper consent has been a reason of losing so many medico-legal battles by the doctor. Hospital administration should look into it and periodically review the consents from files. Thank you so much.